We are talking to Shamith Maharaj, Executive for Data Networks at BCX. And we want to talk about data networks because this is what's making the world go round at the moment. It's what businesses are driving. And, there's all sorts of interesting terminology that's used when you talk about data networks. But Shamith, welcome to you and great to have you with us.
Thank you, Aki. Good morning to you and the listeners, and thanks for the opportunity.
Listen, we often hear about all these buzzwords, and the one that comes up over and over again when you talk about data networks is an autonomous network. What exactly is an autonomous network?
Yeah, Aki, an autonomous network is it's basically a network that runs with minimal to no human intervention. It is able to configure, monitor, and maintain itself independently.
Okay, and I guess it's a very important attribute in business today because let's be honest, IT has become very sophisticated. It's not what it used to be before. We're running multiple layers. Networks are complex. There's threats of cyber attacks and all those kind of things that you simply cannot configure using manpower on the go. You've got to automate a lot of this kind of thing. But what would some of the characteristics of autonomous networks in the African business landscape be? Are they different to, say, in the West or the Northern Hemisphere or other countries that have got more advanced IT infrastructure systems? Is it any different?
Okay, it's very similar to the rest of the world, specifically from an African landscape perspective. Some of the key characteristics include a zero-touch provisioning, especially in the hard-to-reach locations. So this makes it exceptionally important to have this characteristic or this feature set. It also has the ability to scale and is fully application aware. And this is what drives the improved user experience that we want to start seeing in the African continent.
Okay, all right, that makes perfect sense. And of course, we're seeing networks grow exponentially on the continent. We're seeing how much fiber is coming into the continent. We're seeing how many data centers are being built all over the place. So, people are scaling systems based on what their needs are. When you look at the benefits of autonomous networking, I mean, we touched on some of them. The fact that I imagine that speed is key, and the fact that you don't have to dedicate manpower to solving those things. So it's done automatically in the background. But let's run through those benefits of autonomous networking.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Aki. One of the the key benefits is the autonomous network. It can offer a path to IT, and it ensures business alignment, right? And with a key aim to simplify the processes in a very consistent and scalable manner. And this is needed for applications to be delivered through cloud platforms. And it can enable the operational efficiencies, and it helps our IT leaders and the respective teams to deliver application experiences that improve the employee productivity as well as the customer experience. The ultimate goal, Aki, the ultimate benefit is the cost savings that we're going to see across the value chain using the technology as a revenue growth enabler as well. And that is the key elements, the key benefits of having an autonomous network in the environment.
Yeah, of course, cost savings are so key today in the economy that we're in, and organizations, although they're fast-tracking a lot of projects, cost savings are key. The capabilities that come from autonomous networking, what are some of those capabilities that autonomous networks enable in organizations?
Aki, that's a great question, and there's several capabilities, right? But I'm going to touch on a few of the very key ones that's pertinent, on the African continent right now. Firstly, connecting doctors with patients, based on reported symptoms, that's a key one. So, we can have patients in a remote location having access to doctors anywhere in the world, and that's a key fundamental one, helping to drive the health sector and the medical fraternities. Another key one will be, the tracking and tracing using IP cameras on the street. Now, we've just come out of the COVID pandemic, and this would have been a great enabler for us during the pandemic, as well as also helping to fight crime. The crime levels are quite high in our country, and using this technology with the IP cameras on the streets, it will be a key enabler to try and drive down the crime that we see in the country. From a consumer perspective, being able to sell to our consumers goods that we don't necessarily have in our stores right now, and understanding the users and the consumers' buying behaviors and their habits, is a key enabler. In the manufacturing sector, what we're seeing, Aki, having autonomous networks, this is something that we can use to power the next level of robotics that will generate higher productivities across the manufacturing landscape. And then, very simply, and this is also a key one that we've identified in the South African landscape, is having access controls using facial recognition at schools or at workplace, and even in places like prisons. Having to support the wardens and the staff working in these high pressure environments to perform their duties, using the technology that's available to them.
Okay, those are great use cases you mentioned. I was just thinking now about autonomous networks. Are they different to, say, automated networks, which we hear a lot about? Or is it the same thing, or are they very different, the two of them?
Okay, that's a great question. And if you have to break this down, automated systems have the restrictions, in the tasks they perform as their actions and decisions are predefined. Okay. With an autonomous network manages itself as it's learning, it's adapting to the environment, it's making use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Businesses should consider autonomous networks to reduce the human dependencies, to constantly create the processes, but to allow the network to self-learn and make that informed decision. And this results in faster, error-free processing, improved productivity across the landscape, and ultimately, it drives down the business costs.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, there's no doubt about it. When you talk about AI and you talk about it being autonomous, as opposed to it being predefined, it unlocks a lot more value. And I guess that's the next generation of networks, right? That's where it's going globally. That's where the trend is, autonomous. And, everything has now got some element of artificial intelligence built in. And, from a networking point of view, it's no different. I guess the question here is, when you look at our continent and you look at how we're adapting, and yes, we're growing pretty fast. Data centers are coming up all over the place. And I'm not just talking about South Africa, I'm talking right across the continent. The fiber's been laid at an aggressive rate. Is Africa ready to adopt these networks?
Absolutely, yes, Akib. Africa is open for business, and we have the networking building blocks in place with good quality cable connectivity both on the east coast and west coast of Africa, connecting Africa to the rest of the world. We also have the major cloud providers established on the continent with the local content and the peering in place. And more importantly, we have the talented engineering teams on the continent that are highly skilled in artificial intelligence, in machine learning technologies. And, more importantly, from a business perspective, there is a customer demand to be more application aware, to provide more value in this highly commoditized market that we find ourselves in.
Now, when businesses are watching this, and they want to start this journey, and they want to say, listen, autonomous networks is the way to go. And I guess that most businesses have probably got some small level of autonomous networking in place. They've got the generation of the other networks that we were talking about, automated networks versus autonomous. So there is some level of automation, but we want to take it to the next level. How organizations, how do businesses start this journey of moving to autonomous networks with the right IT service provider? Because if you don't do this right and you don't have the right IT service provider, it could be disastrous.
Absolutely correct, Aki. Selecting the right partner is of paramount importance, and is key to the success in deploying an effective autonomous network. One will need a trusted partner who's willing to invest the time to firstly understand the customer's business, identify areas of business that would realize maximum benefit, analyze the available big data using the tool sets, creating the design blueprint based on the customer and the network behavior patterns, and then implementing the artificial intelligence and the machine learning capabilities in the network in a very controlled manner, with the right testing and monitoring prior to the final activation. And I think the sum of these moving parts would ensure a very successful autonomous network deployment for the customer so they can maximize the value and the benefit from this investment.
So it's understanding what you want out of the business and what you want out of the autonomous networks, as opposed to the knee-jerk reaction, let's just do this. Understanding the processes, understanding where your data sits, understanding what you want to do with the data, and it's a process, right?
Absolutely correct, Aki. It's a journey. It's a journey with the customer and the selected partner to realize maximum benefit from the investment that's being made.
Wonderful stuff. Shamith Maharaj, the Executive Head for Data Networks at BCX. Thank you for joining us on What's Next, and wishing you a great day further. Thanks for your time this session, Shamith.
Thank you, Aki.